All right, James Harden just turned 33 years old as of late. Is it still safe to say that Mr. James Harden is still a top 10 player in the National Basketball Association?
If you basing it on I mean, it's a tough situation. Based on last year, probably no. But based on overall, in the last 5 to 7 years, if we talking about who's the superstars in the game, probably James. I guess that's two different questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm talking about going into this season. Are there at least 10 other players you would start your team with? I mean, does James Harden fall into that line of 10?
You're not starting your team with James Harden at this point in his career, no, because of the fact of we've seen him at the third option role with the Brooklyn Nets, even though he kind of played that role willingly. And then right now he's a second option right now to Joel Embiid, and some may say even a third option if Tyrese Maxey keeps developing this year.
All right.
Probably no.
Yeah, let's not get.
So no, top 10.
Top 10 is tough. Top 10 is tough.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of
probably not.
There's a lot of talented guys in that top 10, and we always say it too. The young players are here. I don't even think they're they're on their way or it's only a matter of time. No, they're here. I think there's a lot of players in that 25, 26 and under range. That
since we're talking about James Harden, I had a better question. Is James Harden? Where do you put James Harden? I'm not going to say. Where do you put James Harden in regards to being one of the best offensive players of all time?
Best offensive players of all time.
Best offensive players of all time. Where is James Harden?
I mean, he's one of the most unique players we've ever seen, really. His ability to lead the league in scoring and also probably lead the league in assists. He's probably one of, four max players that can think of.
Yeah.
So offensive wise, I mean, are you asking me to rank him or is he top 10 or just my overall opinions?
What do you? It's a two-part question. So
I was about to say,
where is he? Top 5, top 10, top 20? What do you say?
Top 5. I was definitely top 10. Definitely top 10 in terms of offensive threats.
Okay.
Top 5 offensively, and again, that's the word we're using. It's not just scoring.
Offensive player.
Right.
Talking about yeah.
All right, so let me just work backwards here. Kobe, Mike,
and Jordan.
Not 5. Not 5. Now that I think about it.
Okay.
I mean, I get it. Okay. But still. And again, there's a difference between offensive and scoring.
Is he closer to 5 than 10?
What would he be at? 7? Is he at 7.5? I would say he's closer to 10. That's tough though. All right, so let me think backwards here.
Offensive player, not offensive talent.
Right. So we got Kobe, Mike, Bron. Not even gonna argue anything like that. After that.
Okay, here's the question. Here's the two-part question because you're struggling right now.
Obviously everyone's gonna say Kevin Durant. I mean, but go ahead.
I wasn't thinking that, but so those are 3 names. All right, would you rather have Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Stephen Curry over James Harden as an offensive player when we talk about the best offensive players of all time? So we got 3 that are locks. We got Jordan, we got Michael Jordan, we got LeBron, and then Kobe. So now we got.
I would throw Steph in there as well in that top 5. I'll put Steph over James, but not Jokic. Because the things with now that I think about it, Steph is probably the only guy on this entire list who, even without the basketball, is effective as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like Steph literally just standing there is, you know what I'm saying, would be convenient for a team. But I can't say that. Definitely not about James Harden, and definitely not, I would say the same way when it comes to Stephen Curry. But I mean, Steph's ability to obviously shoot the ball, but as well as pass the ball. The way he commands double teams, he's not just an isolation player. I mean, he doesn't have a real post-up game, but I mean, at that size, he's not really expected to. I mean, obviously Kyrie's a little bit different, but I'll put Steph in that top 5. Jokic, I still got James ahead of Jokic. I'm not going to get too carried away. But KD is tough, though. I would say Kevin Durant and the T-Max of the world and the Carmelos of the world are tough because it's strictly scoring. Even though they can score in a variety of ways, it's still strictly scoring. James Harden, like I said, leading the league in assists.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's not crazy to have, and I don't mind you having Stephen Curry over James Harden, but it's not crazy to have James Harden over Stephen Curry and Nikola Jokic because when we talk about offensive player, we're talking about not just your scoring ability. We're talking about like you said with Steph Curry. Steph Curry plays off the ball. James Harden passing, facilitate, playmaking ability, drawing fouls, getting into the rim. Like it's a lot of things that we talk about being a complete offensive player. Even if we talk about scoring at every level on the basketball court. Now that could be a knock against James Harden. Why some may have Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan, and Kevin Durant above him. So or Nikola
Yeah.
Jokic, you look at like facilitating as a big man. Like he's the first point center in the history of the NBA. So being a center that can go out and get you damn near 25 plus, 7 to 8 assists, and then probably 10 to 12 boards per game as well. He has to be high and kind of mentioned up there. I don't think he is high as those guys. I would not rather have as an offensive player, but it is conversation. So that's why I wanted to ask, because I just feel like people have got like this last year with James Harden a little twisted. This is the same player that got the most 60-point triple doubles in NBA history. You know what I'm saying? Like he's stamped. Like his offensive capability is kind of crazy. So that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to say I think he's a top 5 offensive player of all time. It's hard for me to say he's not. And people can throw out like, what about Wilt? I would say era plays a factor in that decision. But people got to talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. People talk about Magic Johnson. Like it's guys out there. But James Harden, to me, like when we talk about overall scoring and facilitating, it's nobody in that top 5 that does it better than him. We combine the two, just like basically generating the points.
Right. And
that's what he's doing.
Yeah, and to me, like LeBron is probably like the only player in league history that doesn't have any type of flaws. Like there's literally nothing that he, isn't capable of doing. Like this isn't like a knock to like obviously Mike and Cole, but they're not facilitating anywhere near LeBron, right? And so you mentioned James. I mean, now there's 2 guys that we probably should have mentioned, but because they're younger and maybe not have accomplished as much, people will hesitate. But I'm just saying, Trey and Luka.
Yeah, they're not there yet. They haven't done enough yet, but they could be eventually.
But I was going to say, I mean, if we're just talking about strictly offensive talent or offensive players, those also are 2 guys that could probably lead the league in scoring and lead the league in assists. So I mean,
Trey Young just did it last year. That's
why I said
total points.
That's why I said their name.
He's stamped. But like, you can still point out to things where like, all right, well, the off ball with Trey, he hasn't developed that in his game, especially being a marksman. You can even talk about Luka Doncic as well. It's just like not moving without the basketball or not even being really like the most. Luka's complete, but like 3-point shooting, he's not really. He takes a lot of threes, but he's not like a marksman as people like try to pretend that he is. Like James Harden is a marksman from the 3-point line. Stephen Curry is a marksman. Like so they still got rooms to. I'm not going to get too crazy, but they can be there eventually. They can knock some of these other guys that we talk about, like Tracy McGrady, Carmelo Anthony. Maybe they can knock some of these guys like out of that like top 10, eventually. But I just want to ask that because I feel like James Harden, people think it's crazy to say James Harden's a top 5 offensive player of all time. I think it's not crazy at all because I think it's true.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like what it is that you consider to be a part of the whole quote unquote package of being an offensive player. It's not just putting the ball in the hoop. It's also if we're talking about facilitating as well. So if that's the case, that knocks out or I feel like drops a lot of guys because of that. But my thing is also too with the whole James Harden versus Luka thing is like all of them, like we said, have a weakness and a flaw. So even though James is a better shooter than Luka, at the same time, Luka has done some work in the post, right? So that's something that I'm not saying it outweighs it, but like that is something to think about. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone talks about Luka's step back, but trust, James is, the one that was feel be really getting active with it. But I think at the same time, again, I think that's something that Cole and Mike obviously excelled at, but
Mm-hmm. And this is a conversation I want to bring up too, because this is a conversation I feel like a lot of people aren't ready to have. Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's a legitimate argument made that Giannis Antetokounmpo is a top 10 offensive player of all time with his lack of skill set. I know it may sound crazy, but it's just kind of like
look at you coming to the dark side.
No, dark side. No, it's you can have a case that Giannis can be considered a top 10 offensive player of all time with his lack of skill set, which goes back to the conversation we always talk about, like aesthetically pleasing or actual like production, and you can have a more aesthetically pleasing and skill set be so phenomenal, but that does not make you a better player. So just because Giannis may not be able to do some of the things that these other guys in this top 10 that we consider can do, but like his overall level of production, you can point some of those things that they can't do like Giannis. Because like operating and scoring in a variety of ways, and then we talk about like, he draws so much of the defenders in and in the paint, kicking it out, his playmaking ability, his overall package of just like being like this, having this dominant all around game in a way. That's hard to do. Like we talk about LeBron, but LeBron is LeBron. He's complete. Giannis ain't there, but it's just like having an overall game of where you look at the amount of like you're generating points, but you're also generating assists because like you're drawing so many defenders in at the first level that he's kicking it out to the corners and they're hitting threes and stuff like that. He's averaging like 6 assists per game. It may sound crazy, but it's just like you can have that conversation if you wanted to.
It's funny. Had this conversation happened like 5-6 months ago, I think for those of you that have been listening to the show for a while, you probably would expect now that there is the exact opposite of opinions on this one. But I wouldn't put Giannis in this type of conversation. But it brings up a question for me. Do you feel like we're leaving out bigs? Do you feel like we're doing a disservice by not bringing up Shaquille O'Neal's and maybe even Hakeem Olajuwon's?
No, you can bring
David Robinson's.
Yeah, No, I'm not feel like we're leaving. I mean, you can put them in there too as well. They have an argument. I'm just saying, like Giannis has an argument to be top 10 of that, just like guys like Hakeem, just like guys like Wilt, just like guys like Shaq as well. Because you could point to flaws in all of them. But I brought up Giannis because I feel like it's a lot of talk about like what Giannis don't do, and we know what he doesn't. I've been saying it for years. Like that's been my only critique of Giannis. But what tends to happen is like his skill set. Like, he's not creating off the dribble. He's not a great 3-point shooter. But it's just kind of like, all right, that is true. But it's just like, does it really matter at the end of the day if you win a championship, if you like producing, if you are generating so much offensive responsibility for your team? So
right now, who do you feel could have a strong case to be in the top 10 for offensive players of all time? Giannis or Trey?
You probably have to give it to Giannis because like the things I said, like Giannis is 30 and 20, even though we just talking about like course, like we're looking for offense. That's why
I was gonna say the 20 part to me right now is irrelevant.
Irrelevant, but like his ability to draw and suck in the defense and get open shots for other players, that's a part of like playmaking and passing. So it's just like
I would go Trey.
It's tough. It's tough.
I would go Trey.
It's tough.
I would go Trey.
Yeah, but it's also like talent too, though. I think talent is totally different than like just overall game because talent wise, it's a whole lot of guys that are probably from a talent perspective, when you look at everything and fully have a more complete offensive game than a lot of these guys. From a talent perspective, who colder than Kyrie really? And we didn't even mention him. So
yeah, right. My thing is with some of those like. It's more so like the smaller guys that get a lot of credit for being quote unquote skilled just because they're smaller. So it's more of I feel like a spectacle. And obviously like Kyrie is talented. This isn't like, I'm not generalizing him. But at the same time, I think just because Giannis is larger and we look at him, to some people, he just runs up the floor and then just ducks. I still think though that Giannis has some type of skill, right? I won't sit here and say that he completely is just a dominating. No, there's some people who say like he has zero bag. You can't do that and have zero bag.
Yeah, I mean, athleticism is not just like cream off the dribble, 3-point shot. Athleticism is, your footwork and the pose, your agility, all those types of things, like attacking at the basket. Giannis, with a handle his size, is kind of crazy. The speed that he runs and, being durable is kind of crazy. How many 7 feet plus guys have we seen in the league that can't move like Giannis? That's a form of like a skill set. That's a form of his athleticism. Like athleticism, it's not a skill set, but it's just like, it's things that your athleticism has to make up to form to make things a skill set, like agility, like moving with the basketball, like, from point A to point B with his handle and stuff like that. So that's all can be considered skill, even though his athleticism is so strong, so dominant, things like that. But his skill set can make up that athleticism. So, yeah,
I feel like he's also developed over the years too, right? Like a lot of these guys that we're talking about, they were top 1, top 2 picks. But Giannis, when he first came into the league, there aren't too many people that probably thought he would be what he is today. You know what I'm saying? And so who knows? Like the sky really is the limit for him. But I think when we talk about, these legacy talks and top 10 all time, there's still like some of the guys that we talked about, they still have some room to, to operate and to move up and down, by the way, and down.
I just said a case though, because I think people get caught up similar to James Harden. Like I said, people said like, oh, it's crazy they say he has a case to be top 5 offensive player of all time. Like, no.
Well, I think when people disagree with that, I think they are taking into consideration what they've seen recently. Right.
But that's what I'm saying. But you can't do that though, because it's
of course.
It's like the whole superstar shit. Like people talk about this whole superstar things, like who's a superstar, who's not a superstar. Okay, well, James Harden had a bad season. Damian Lillard had a bad season. Both had injuries and stuff like that. Whatever the case may be, James Harden, all that stuff with Brooklyn Nets. But like, if you base the things on 1 year, like you asked, is James Harden a top 10 basketball player in this upcoming NBA season? Probably not. If you base things on 1 year, is James Harden not a superstar? Probably not. If you base things on 1 year, is Damian Lillard not a superstar? Is he not a top 10 player? Probably not. If you base things in 1 year. But sometimes you can't base everything. I think this is the real test with James Harden and Dame, because like if you look at the past like 5 years, has your in the last 5 years and in your prime, whatever the case may be, were you a top 10 player? That tells me if the answer is yes, 9 times out of 10 you're a superstar, and that's how we can eliminate the whole who's a superstar, who's not a superstar. Because if you ain't been a top 10 player for 4 to 5 years plus, no, you're not a superstar. So I can't point to certain guys like Damian Lillard, like, Dame has been a top 10 player for the past 4 to 5 years. Easy, probably. He's a superstar. James Harden has been a top 10 player for the past 4 to 5 years. He's a superstar. So it's a challenging situation, but
then with that situation, it almost brings up the fact like who has more of a claim, if you will, to the superstar title. The player that's been a superstar for 4 years, but then his most recent season wasn't that great, or the player that's been going crazy the last 2 years. He hasn't been doing it for 5 years, but he's been doing it for 2.
One bad season is the reason why people that talk about the game of basketball get caught up in narratives and get caught up in the hype. Pascal Siakam had a better season than Paul George 1 year.
No, I'm not going to talk about. No.
People were talking about Pascal Siakam was better than Paul George. You can point to a lot of these players, and it ain't just that situation. I can't think of it at the moment right now.
I got you one. Let me ask you this: who do you think, as of right now, has a better claim, if you had to choose one, of superstar status? Devin Booker or James Harden?
Well, right now, I want to say Devin Booker's a superstar, because I don't think Devin Booker's a top 10 player in the game.
Okay, that's fair. I just wanted your opinion, because that is kind of off the example that I said. A player that has, I would say, risen above the occasion over these last 2 years. Now, obviously, Devin has been cold, the real no. But you feel me? Anytime you get number 1 seed in a conference, anytime you make it to the finals and then perform well in the finals, that's different, right? Yeah. And to James Harden, he may not have had the greatest season last year or the year prior, but we know that he's still a former MVP. A great player, and everything that he did with the Rockets, everything like that. So that's why I pose that question. It's not a matter of, I don't think Devin is or James isn't. Just, it's a recent thing.
I think it also matters too. Like, so I'm big on playoffs, but I can't just look at the situation like, all right, you got to get to the playoffs as well. Like, you got to really regular season matters. It doesn't matter a lot, but you still got to perform and produce to help your team get to the playoffs. So that's what I'm saying. Like, playoffs matter more, of course, but some guys, here's a perfect example: Jimmy Butler. In playoff time, Jimmy Butler is a superstar to me. I want Jimmy Butler over Nikola Jokic come playoff time. I want to go to war with Jimmy Butler over Nikola Jokic. Easy. But some people will argue okay, well, Nikola Jokic performs better in the regular season, and he performs great in the postseason as well. So it's just who's more of a superstar, Nikola Jokic or Jimmy Butler? Even though I'd rather take Jimmy Butler to go to war with in the playoffs, I can't say that Jimmy Butler is more of a superstar than Nikola Jokic, because I've seen Nikola Jokic do it, in the regular season and also in the postseason. Now, the postseason is what matters the most, but for who's the more of a superstar, you probably got to roll with Nikola Jokic over Jimmy Butler, even though I just said that I would rather go to war with Jimmy Butler in the playoffs.
That sucks though, because I feel obviously Jimmy and, no player alive is ever going to say Oh yeah, I just coast in the regular season, but at the same time, you kind of know that, like, all right,
I mean,
Jimmy knows when to like really turn it up a notch.
okay,
Right, like Jimmy knows when, like, because there's some players that have a problem having a switch. There's some players that you're looking like, hey man, you do realize it's playoffs now, right? Let's get it going. If not now, when? I don't think Jimmy has that problem, but if you were to choose which time of the year a player is really able to turn up, it's going to be April, May, and June. Some players, it ain't, you know what I'm saying? It ain't later in the season. But that's nothing too, right? It's like,
also,
how many?
It can be opposite too, Theus.
Oh, I know. I want to touch on that, but we know. We know. Look, we talking about regular season versus postseason. Nothing we got to talk about is damn contract years. Everybody's superstar in their contract year. Everybody's a ball player in their contract years.
I see that for a mile away.
Everybody's a hooper when it's time to get paid.
Yeah, I see that for
a mile
away. You know what's coming in this contract year. Yeah.
Oh man, everybody getting shots up.
Yeah,
I ain't seen that much type of intensity on the defensive end all since you've been on the damn roster.
Yeah,
but now it's time to get. I ain't mad at it. If I get your course. But another thing I want to mention too is, like, how many superstars are in the league? That to me is the real question.
If you're a top 10 player, I have to consider you a superstar, especially if you do it both in the regular season and postseason, and then probably like have been, in that top 10 for probably like 4 to 5 years. That's kind of how I view it.
But is there a max? So like, all right, so if you want to say there's 10 superstars, cool. But is there a max? Can there be 30 damn superstars? There's 30 teams, but can there be 30 superstars in the league?
I tend to go with the lottery. What's the NBA draft lottery is what? 14 players?
14. 14 teams, yeah.
So I try to say probably if you're a top 14 player, to me, like, of course it's tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then you got the like kind of like fourth tier that can kind of like bumps tier 3 and 4. They kind of go back and forth, like Kyrie and Paul George kind of goes back and forth. Like, it's certain players they kind of go, even Jimmy Butler, Kyrie, Paul George kind of go back and forth in that tier.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're a top 14 player, to me, most times it means you're a number one option on a championship team. Most times it means number one or number two option. Most times it means you are a superstar. Most times that means, like, in the past, like 3 to 4 or 5 years, you probably have been a top 10 player, at least once or twice in that window. So to me, I think it's 14 probably superstars in the league, but it's tiers. It's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then you got the like tier 4, which is kind of like, some would say like, well, 10 to 14 range may be honorable mention, but still to me, room enough for me to call him a superstar. So that's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, I agree with that kind of categories. And to me, another one is, like, I feel like you got to start in the All-Star game. Now, obviously, that's not the end-all, be-all, but like, to me, that's like, because, there's only 2 teams, right, that make it to the finals, right? And, not all great players are going to make it there in 1 year, I would say, in 1 year. But you got to at least start
that's position, because Andrew Williams is not a superstar, and he started.
Okay, well, I literally said that's why it's not an end-all, be-all. But to me, that's a part of it. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't started an All-Star game, and obviously some of it is politics, you know what I'm saying? Not everyone's going to have that luxury, but at the same time, that's where the top play, right? That's if you're there, you're there. And we can sit here and say fan vote and all that, but at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a little dicey because Zion started. Yeah. Zion not no superstar. Not yet. He ain't proved nothing to be a superstar to me. So
what does he have to do?
What did Jason Tatum, Trae Young, and Luka Doncic do? We can start there. Until that happens, then I really don't want to hear about the whole superstar stuff.
All right, then going out there. I have a cap or no cap. Do you have one? If not, I'll cap or no cap. Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans will make it to at least the Western Conference semifinals this year.
Yo, no cap. I told you where I'm at with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Nope. You said they have the potential to be a top 4 seed. That does not mean they will make it to the second round. Does not mean so.
Cap. No cap. If everybody is healthy, no cap. No cap. I'm looking. They may have a chance.
Slow down. Yeah, let me help you pump your brakes on that one.
The Dallas Mavericks went to the Western Conference Finals last year. That's all I'm gonna say. Shout out to Luka.
We don't need no shit. We don't need no pats on the back. That was a damn shot.
He showed he was a real LeBron disciple. Cause like, goddamn, like looking at that team, if you really being honest, like the Phoenix Suns just had a damn collapse. If you played that series over with like in a simulation, like best 10 times, like Dallas Mavericks probably win twice. So luckily they won. That was one of those they won because that team was damn near awful.
You gotta give them their flowers.
Damn near awful.
And you talk about Western Conference Finals. Yeah. That's tough. I mean, that means you can make the case in going off that you feel that they are or can be a top 2 team in the conference.
I'm gonna make this case. Somebody that was in the top 4 dropping heavy this year. I think some teams got better. I think
absolutely. Some teams got healthier.
And I think also like I hate to say it. Rudy Gobert going to the Minnesota Timberwolves does improve the Minnesota Timberwolves' chances of like probably increasing in the regular season.
Doing what?
Increasing their seeding in the regular season. Memphis Grizzlies. As great as the Memphis Grizzlies are, last year I was throughout the whole season. I told people, second round exit. People can talk about they faced the Golden State Warriors. I don't give a damn if they were facing the Phoenix Suns. I was still picking probably the Phoenix Suns over them. So I feel like Memphis is going to like. I'm just saying, of course, but I feel like Memphis is going to drop down a little bit. I don't think they're going to sneak up on anybody. I don't think they're going to be. I look from a talent perspective. Ja's incredible. Like. People, like, I know they had a great team around him and stuff like that, but who's their second best player on their team? If it's a toss-up, that is a problem to me. Because some nights it can be Jared Jackson, some nights it can be Desmond Bain, some nights it can be, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Dylan?
Dylan Brooks, taking all these questionable shots at times. So that's what I'm saying. That's a problem to me. I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, Cat. That's not a problem to me. I look at the New Orleans Pelicans, Brandon Ingram, Zion Wilson, or CJ McCollum. That's a trio. You know, I still look at the Warriors. You got Steph, you got Clay. I look at the Lakers. You got Anthony Davis, you got LeBron. I think that's going to matter this year if everybody is healthy. You look at the Clippers. You got Kawhi, you got Paul George. Like,
but you know what though?
I think they're going to fall off if everybody is healthy.
You know, it's so funny and ironic. The only team that you've said, and I agree, like talent-wise, on paper, it's all there. But outside of the Warriors, the Grizzlies are the only team that have gone out and done it. Like the Lakers, I mean, they like done something like last season.
What did they do?
Being a 2 seed and making it to the second. Like that's
so did the Jazz for 4 straight years when they were the top 2 seed.
That's not.
That's the same thing. That's why I don't understand why people.
Okay, and you know what? Okay,
why people do Donovan Mitchell the same. That's the same thing. Donovan Mitchell didn't have a real number 2, and he was still leading them to the second overall seed in the regular season, and then getting out of the first round or out of the second round. He was doing that for years.
But my response to that would be can you imagine what the Jazz would have been like without Donovan Mitchell? Can you imagine how sad of a basketball game that would have
I can imagine Ja Morant. I know people are going to talk about that. Oh, the Memphis Grizzlies, they won games without Ja Morant.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That happened last year in the regular season. Teams weren't healthy. It was a lot of things that benefit towards that. They not like that. They really aren't.
I did not say they are my pick to win the whole thing. I'm just saying you still got to give flowers when it's due. Give credit when it's due. I mean, they did. Like I said, they've done it. So your belief in the Timberwolves, they haven't done it. They've done more than the Timberwolves. I can tell you that. I can tell you that.
It was a bloodbath. You got like they swept the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was a damn bloodbath.
But they did it.
Bloodbath. It was hard.
But they did it.
It was a hard series. Don't act like the series like a sleeper like the Minnesota. The fact that it was a hard series to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Minnesota Timberwolves got better this year. New Orleans Pelicans got healthier. The Clippers are healthier. The Denver Nuggets are healthier. Those are 4 teams right there, Theus, that just from a health perspective, everybody is right, is better than the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's just real. That's just real.
I'm sure if you'd have asked this question even prior to last season, we would have been having the same conversation. On paper, the Grizzlies don't have it. Everyone else has a better roster. True, they got lucky, whatever.
sometimes teams have a year where I'm not saying the Memphis Grizzlies aren't talented. I'm not saying that they don't have a young core and a young foundation and they grit and grind. And those guys are dogs. Everybody on the Memphis Grizzlies, they're dogs. They have that underrated, like, makeup and feel. But still, they aren't as good as some of these other teams that had situations that made them not as great as they can be. Now, this is a true year for the Memphis Grizzlies, especially if I said, knock on wood, everybody is healthy. Now, if they go out and they still the number 2 seed and the Los Angeles Clippers are healthy and the Lakers are better and the Minnesota Timberwolves are better and the New York Pelicans are better and the Golden State Warriors are still there, like if they're still the number 2 seed, then I may be like, you know what? Maybe they for real. Because I kind of did that with the Jazz. I was like, maybe.
No. There was never a moment that crossed my mind and said,
that's
shit.
fine. But I'm just saying, but you can still say maybe. It was still like, maybe this is the year. The same thing with the Minnesota Grizzlies. If they go out and prove they're the second overall seed in the West and they go to the playoffs, maybe they can get to the Western Conference. Maybe. But to me, they're more likely to probably get knocked out in the first round or maybe knocked out in the second round because like their whole roster, they don't have a number 2 option. Like that's just what it is. Like Ja's a guard. He needs a real number 2. It's hard. That's why I don't get why people talk about Donovan Mitchell so much. Like, you know how Donovan Mitchell came as a rookie and led the Jazz to like playoff series, being a best option, the number 1. It's hard doing that shit as a guard. And you have no second best player. Like it's hard, especially come playoff time. It's hard.
Yeah, ask Trae Young.
Yeah, ask Trae, ask Allen Iverson, like ask Isaiah Thomas. Like it's hard, and Ja's capable, but he needs a number 2. That's why they should have threw everybody at Kevin Durant.
Wait, what?
Should have threw the whole roster.
Where the hell is that coming from?
Brooks, you think 4 first-round picks. They had a cap, but I would threw the whole shit.
I would print out a paper of the roster like, y'all see this? You see everybody name, not name. That don't say Ja Morant. Here you go.
We got draft picks. We got pick your pick. You want Jared Jackson? You want Dillon Brooks? You want 4? Boom. You don't want Dillon Brooks? You want Desmond Bain? You want Jared Jackson? You want 4 first round? They should have did everything. Like everything here.
But you know what though? It's so funny to say that because you gotta remember who ultimately has the leverage here. Now obviously Kevin Durant, phenomenal basketball player. Do not, please y'all, don't misinterpret this. But at the same time, the Grizzlies are the ones that's come fresh off a great season. The Nets are the ones coming fresh off a shitty season. So I mean, it ain't one team. Now again, if you have the opportunity to get Kevin Durant, obviously you pick up the phone, you entertain it. I'm not saying you don't, but at the same time, if the Grizzlies in their mind they feel like they want to run it back, who am I to sit here and tell them no? They didn't have a messed up season.
They didn't win no championships, and the Warriors was calling Kevin in the Nets like, maybe we should run it back.
Same thing with Golden State. They just fresh off winning the chip. Brooklyn isn't one that did not get. I know I don't want to go back in time. But at the same time, it's more of if you just came off a season where you are winning, okay. Obviously, Kevin Durant will immediately be an upgrade to your team. But y'all not, I go throw no other team under the bus. But y'all ain't have no damn losing record. Okay? Figure this shit out. You know, you got a young roster. But I tell you what, though, Ja Morant and KD would have been special. It would have been special. But
what's more likely to happen? Ja Morant and Kevin Durant win the championship or Ja Morant win the championship with these guys? Okay.
But you know what though? Hold on. Because in the same case, what we just saw from Brooklyn, everyone would think, okay, Kevin and Kyrie, of course, they about to run it up. So now honestly, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Oh, okay. I can't sit here. No, I'm being so serious because what we saw, like there's nothing anymore. Hell, a team with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, they about to go to the chip. A team with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, they about to go to. Nothing is proven no more. Nothing.
A team with a superstar and an up and coming superstar is more likely to go to the finals than a team with one superstar and a bunch of starters. That's just how I view it. I don't think it's really like a debate. I don't think it's like that's just kind of like
nothing is obvious anymore. I'll tell you that. There's nothing that should be unanimous.
What's the difference
between Kevin Durant and Ja Morant and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving?
When's the last time we saw a superstar player win a championship without an all-star on their team. It's been too long. It's been too long.
Was that Dirk?
It's been too long. Yes, Dirk Nowitzki. Too damn long. So
Chris was all-star. Oh, he's all-star. Caliber, but yeah.
Who?
I was saying Chris Middleton.
He went to
Giannis.
he was an all-star game. Yes, he was an all-star game. That's what I'm saying.
But even still, listen.
It's been too damn long. It's been
too
damn long.
No, it's funny. If last year didn't happen, if we never experienced what it's like to see Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I would have been on board with it. But my point is, we have seen, what is the difference between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and John Morant? Is there something I don't know?
The difference is the Memphis Grizzlies have Kevin Durant and they have John Morant, and instead of John Morant and starters. That's the difference.
That is not an answer to my question. What is the difference between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? We just saw them get swept, and John Morant and Kevin Durant tandem. What is the difference?
You're talking about a team with, like I said, we're talking about. You're not about to do that. You're not about to switch.
I'm just asking you a question.
We're talking about in Memphis. We're talking about Memphis with their roster right now, with John Morant leading the way. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have John Morant and Kevin Durant? That's what we're talking. We're not talking about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. What is the difference? That's not what we're talking. That wasn't the original question. The original question was, would you rather have Kevin Durant and John Morant on Memphis or John Morant and starters?
I would rather have John Morant and Kevin Durant.
Okay.
But now, may you please answer my question? What is the difference? Because the thing is, too, if someone were to tell me right now that they would rather have John Morant and the rest of the players on the Grizzlies right now, I wouldn't look at them like they're crazy. You're trying to make it seem like it should be a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around what is the difference between what we just saw in Brooklyn versus a team that literally just came off making it to
what
the semifinals. What did Brooklyn do something that I don't know about? Am I missing something?
I mean, I don't know this. Last year was a crazy year. I mean, they had Kyrie played 20-some games.
Oh, brother. Oh, I don't want to hear any of that. I don't want to hear any of that anymore.
The year before I saw Kevin Durant almost beat the champions by himself with James Harden hobbling on one leg. So to sit up and say like, yo, what's the difference between John Morant and Kevin Durant on the same team? I don't know. They'd probably be pretty damn special. They'd probably be pretty damn good. They probably have a better chance of winning a championship than what Ja right now for the next 4 years.
Well, I mean, we'll never know because I'm not, I highly doubt Kevin Durant is stepping, foot in Memphis.
In the next 4 years, is the Memphis Grizzlies win a championship?
Probably. Who knows? I mean, as long as Giannis is still walking around, the league, it's probably going to be his. But it's not like it's not a crazy thing to say. But either way, y'all, make sure you subscribe, especially if you live in Memphis. Make sure you subscribe to No
Korea too.
Facts, South Korea. Facts. Make sure you subscribe to No Pump Fakes wherever you get your podcast. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. All right. Make sure you subscribe to No Pump Fakes. All right. On YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Just like that, y'all, we gone. Peace. What's up, y'all? It's Theus McBee. Make sure you go follow No Pump Fakes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.